Hi, this is Rick. We're going to talk about how we write a program in this class. So as we start off, the most important thing we can do is make sure we're writing the right program. So the first thing we want to start off with is understanding the problem as presented by the sponsor or by the stakeholder. The idea there is they're going to throw out all kinds of ideas, and they need to be organized. They need to be put in categories so that we don't waste our time programming something that really isn't necessary. So we're going to use what is called an IPO chart. Now, this IPO chart that you see was created in Word. So this is just a landscape page with a table in it with input, process, and output. That's what IPO means, input, process, and output. That's exactly the way a computer works. We input something, it processes it, and then it outputs. Now with this particular chart, I've found it best to start with output. So what does the stakeholder, what does the sponsor want out of the problem? What do they want out of the project? What do they want the program to do? And for example, if they needed an alphabetical listing of all the students in this class, then we probably wouldn't need to have your ages put in there. If you don't want it as an output, let's not put it in there. So we're going to start with output. Then I'm going to go to input and say, what do I need to input to get that output? In our example, I would need your first name and your last name. That's it. 2 fields. And then in the middle, we're going to process it. We're actually going to sort it in alphabetical order or something like that. So the idea is that we go output, input, then process. Once we understand the problem, we want to develop the logic, and we're going to do this in a program called SFC, Structured Flowcharting. And this is a flowchart. This gives us the logic of what the sponsor or the author of the program wants to do. So at that point, we're going to start and we're going to stop, and there are going to be a bunch of steps in between. We do that with SFC, and that SFC program is available to you online under SFC. It's available to you from the instructor, or it's available to you in Blackboard. Once we've done SFC, you're going to notice that it actually does 2 things. So we're going to develop the code, and one of the steps in developing the code is to write pseudocode. Well, guess what? SFC writes pseudocode. That's the other half of this. The left-hand side is the structured flowchart. The right-hand side is pseudocode that goes along with that structured flowchart. Once we've written the pseudocode, then we pretty much know how to select a language, because different languages have different strengths. So if we were going to do mainly database stuff, we would select one language. If we were going to do mainly math stuff, we would do a different language. And in fact, many programs are written in multiple languages, taking advantage of their strengths and weaknesses and avoiding their weaknesses. Once we get the language selected, then we're going to write the code, and we're going to do it in 2 places. We're going to start with code.org. That's a website that's going to teach you all kinds of structures and logic and get your mind kind of bending in that direction. And then once you've done that, you're going to go ahead and start Code Blocks. And Code Blocks is available on Blackboard, and is available from your instructor, and it's also available online under Code Blocks. And this is a program. This is what a program would look like. Notice that int main void thing? That's what we saw in the structured flowchart and in the pseudocode. So here's our input, process, and output. Cool. Once we've written the code, we're going to compile it. Now, compiling means that we're going to change it from English, which we understand, to ones and zeros, or machine language, which the computer understands, because the computer does not speak English. I'm sorry, it just doesn't. And so at that point, we're going to compile it, change all these wonderful little words into ones and zeros so that the computer can actually run it. Once that's done, we're going to test the program. So we're going to give it back to a bunch of testers, and these are people who have the specifications down, and they know how to break things. And so usually the companies that have a good solid testing center usually have better programs. Then we're going to release the program. It's going to actually leave our presence, and it's going to go out there. By the way, I hate to say this, but you're never done with a program, because once you've released the program, someone finds out something that it doesn't do that they wanted it to do, or they find a mistake in the code. So you come back and start over with version 1.1. That's basically the way we're going to write a program in here. So at this point, we want you to go to code.org untitled.org/learn and watch the rest of this video, and then go there so that you can actually begin the process of learning the programming structured code. And this is the URL that we want to go to. Once you get to this page, we're going to go down here to Tutorial for Beginners, and we're just going to click on it. And you'll notice that there's wonderful Mark Zuckerberg there. The nice thing about this is it gives you a video introduction to everything that's going to go on. This is where you're going to start your presentations. This is where you're going to start your programming. So you're going to watch the video and then follow the instructions. When you get through with all the levels, you're going to get a certificate. And that's the certificate I want to see.